FloodGate family. I hope you enjoyed that awesome little intro music. I know I was jamming out in the background there. But welcome to Hiring University. This is probably the frothiest, as I like to call it, hiring market we've seen in a decade. So we decided we wanted to put together some key things for you to be able to understand the keys of the 20 years we have. So I got a couple questions for you. By the way, when you're on, we've got an easy way of comment. If you want to comment, just comment in the feed in LinkedIn, and we'll see it and we'll be able to answer it. We'll have some interactive questions, and of course, we'll take some Q&A at the end. So please comment there, post it on LinkedIn. We're going to be able to see that, no problem. So a couple numbers for you to think about, because this is all about money. $250,000. Does anyone, can anyone guess what $250,000 represents? No one? All right. That number is what SRAM estimates as the total money lost or spent, however you want to do it, on a bad hire. Pretty impressive, right? Now, $37,000. Anyone know what that number is? Well, that's the average total loss and opportunity loss of an open territory for med device. It's a lot of money on the line, right? But it's not just about having the money. You guys want to win this talent scrum. And right now, that talent scrum, it's like that, that best talent, that most important, President's Club candidate is like that little pigskin in the middle of that talent scrum. So we're going to cover how you win that, because you want to be on stage. You want that team that has fun together, that has that camaraderie, because as we know, Ray Kroc, who's one of the best organizations ever, knew that only as good as the people you hire. One of the other great organizations, Microsoft, their key principle is that number one has always been hiring smart people. That comes from a really smart guy. So we know that hiring is important. But I got a challenge for you. I want to see how good of a hiring manager you really are. We're going to post something in the comments here so you can see, but you can get onto the survey, interactive, see how you are. But in case that doesn't work for you, I got a little cheat here for you. So here's 5 questions. Do you ask the recruiter in the market about the location, obstacles they foresee? Do you arrive on, for your calls with the recruiter or candidates on time? 1 to 10, never, always. Do you spend 10 minutes at least looking at the resume, understanding, finding points of rapport, looking for those key questions before you interview a candidate? Do you quickly and thoughtfully always respond to the candidate's emails? And finally, do you provide timely feedback, like within 24 hours, so people and your team can action it? Anyone? 100%? 10 out of 5 out of 10? Who's lying? I know most people are not able to do that. That is why we have the LinkedIn. So why don't you always do that? You don't always do it for a few main reasons. First is numbers, right? You're challenging numbers. You got to do reports for people. You've got to be able to do those things. Second, you've got customers that are yelling at you. You have problems. Things didn't ship. Things didn't come on time. You have trade shows. I mean, it's coming up to January. We have tons of things going on in January where you have all your national sales meetings. You've got live trade shows happening, and you've got a team to coach. All of that takes a lot of time, right? And that time it's 60 days to hire somebody. 20 hours of your time during that, probably in interviews and travel and all that things. 45 to 90 days in training, just to bring them up to speed. That's 35 hours of your time. You're set coaching them, walking through 100 days really to get full impact. That's probably about 45 days of field rides, different time coaching and supporting. 8 months is the average we find for someone to be effective. And usually most hiring managers spend about 2.5 weeks of their time. That's a ton. So you do all of that, and then you end up with this guy, and you have to start all over again. That's not what you want to have happen, right? So today we're going to help you make sure that doesn't happen. We're going to first learn about the plan and the team. So how to set the plan, that's the most important. That team is absolutely crucial for you to support you. How to engage candidates correctly to get their attention, to make a difference, interviewing, onboarding, so they stick and stay, and of course, time for Q&A. So who are we? There's a couple of us here. We got Morgan Mills, who is here with us live, who will be presenting in a little bit. We've got Heidi Herrick, who has been with us for 20 years. Heidi?
16.
16 years. Yeah, I always see. Well, she started when she was 12. I mean, look at that. So, but tremendous amount of experience here to be able to help you. And we've, of course, been recruiting a med device specifically for 20 years at FloodGate Medical. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Heidi, who can tell you about the Dream Team.
Well, what's up, FloodGate family? Thank you for joining and tuning in. If Joe was the bearer of bad news with all the money you're losing from bad hires and pictures of Dwight Schrute, the assistant to the regional manager, is your next hire, then I guess you could say I'm here as the good cop to pump you guys up. So, of course, we all want to build a dream team, right? And I'm curious what brought you guys here. Maybe you've just gotten mediocre candidates recently. Maybe you've had your final candidate poached in the 11th hour, right when you were extending the offer. Maybe it's something else. Maybe you've hired great people and then lost them within the first year. Recruiting and hiring is incredibly difficult under any circumstance. And right now it's off the Richter. The talent market is just incredibly competitive. So, I have the most important segment of the presentation today, which is the foundation. And of course, as you guys know, if you build a house on the sand, it's going to crumble. If you build a team on a just gunslinging strategy without a process and a plan, you're going to fail. So I want to urge you guys to tune in, slow down, take notes, listen, because this foundation will set you guys up for success. So Joe and Morgan will be shortly in a few minutes talking to you guys about attracting and winning over talent. And then for the next few minutes, I'll be talking to you guys about your foundation. And typically, if you're like most managers, when you have an open territory, whether you promoted someone or someone resigned, you want to hit the green button and just go. You want to schedule those interviews and you just want to move to action. So want to encourage you guys to slow down in order to speed up. You already saw this slide. This is not a mistake. 250,000 is at minimum the amount that you will lose for a mishire. We have new clients calling us all the time, sharing just sob stories over mishires, right? They rushed in, they didn't vet the person, they didn't follow the process. And 6 months later, they've got a toxic leader. They've got people that are leaving, abandoning ship because the culture is suffering. They've lost money. It's just a bad situation. So slow down to speed up is the name of the game for recruiting. So I would like to share with you guys about 3 key factors to build your plan and process. All right. So take notes, 3 things. Hiring profile, number 1, having a defined timeline, number 2, and having a recruiting partner that's equipped and motivated to win for you. If you have these 3 things and you follow the plan, you will be successful. All right. So let's tease these out, starting with your hiring profile. What does good look like? Morgan shared with me her glamour shots from high school. Super hot, right? This is what good looks like. But seriously, guys, so you got to know what good is going to look like. If you don't have a set profile, how are you going to know, right? Gut is good, but it can't be everything. So you've got to define, what does that look like? Okay. So what are those hard skills? Maybe it's selling, capital equipment into the VA system. Maybe it's something else. You've got to define what those hard skills are. Soft skills, super important, right? Depending on if you're selling capital, you want that closer. You want that intense personality. If you're selling more of an intimate product like a continence or a ostomy, you're going to want someone that's a little bit more gentle, a little bit softer, right? So identify what those hard skills and soft skills are. The big debate in recruiting is this next one: experience versus performance. Just because you've done something for 20 years does not make you good at it, right? So weigh the scales between experience and performance and be prepared to budge. You might have somebody that's got 2 years of experience, but they've absolutely crushed it. Maybe they worked their way through college, and they're just ready to run through a brick wall for you. Third up, this is one that a lot of hiring managers don't do. They don't look at this. What are the common denominators of success within your organization? So look outside of your region, talk to your peers in the Midwest, the West, the Southeast. What common denominators are they seeing that might help you with your hiring profile? So don't live in a vacuum within your little region. Lastly, this is the most important. Have a hiring mindset that flexes, okay? Because you guys know that just like in dating, getting married, there's no perfect person out there, right? Everybody's got something that's a little bit off. So be ready to flex.
Except for me, Heidi.
Except for Joe. Joe is perfect in every way.
Yeah.
Get out of here, Joe. But tightness of profile, compensation, timeline, maybe you got to wait. If you haven't seen that perfect person yet, or almost perfect person, maybe you got to be patient. So be ready to flex, listen to your recruiter, listen to what's going on in the market, because you're going to have to flex on one of those. All right, next up is our timeline. So Stephen Covey, awesome guy, awesome leader, great, just best practices in business. This is one of my favorite. Begin with the end in mind. You guys might be surprised to know that a hiring process, when it's well executed, typically at minimum takes about 8 weeks. We have hiring managers, again, that come to us, monthly and say, I've got this position. And we say, okay, well, when do you want this person to start? 3 weeks. Well, it's just, unless like the stars align, it just doesn't happen, right? Because you want to vet this person. You want your peers to vet them. You want them to prove that they want this, which means going on ride days, taking assessments, putting business plans together. All of these things take time. Why am I bringing this up? So that you can plan, right? Beginning with the end in mind means you're carving that time out on your calendar. If they have to interview with your VP who travels 80% of the time, block that time off in her calendar, right? Even if it's just a placeholder, commit to the time. It's easier to give it up than to ask for it when it happens. All right, next up, finding and equipping your talent partner. All right, so you guys hopefully recognize this guy, Nick Saban, absolutely king of college football. He's been known as his nickname, one of his nicknames is King of the Recruiting Trail. So, you guys might argue and say, oh, it's easy for Saban to get, awesome top picks now. Yeah, it probably is. But when he started, like back in 2009, 2010, it wasn't easy for him then. He didn't have the reputation or the track record that he does now. And I did some research, and he's some cool, maybe urban legends, but he's been known to going out to the bars, drinking with grandmas of wide receivers, convincing them as to why their grandson should come and play for him. I share that story because you have to have a dedicated recruiting partner on your team, right? So number one, your recruiting partner, whether internal or external, doesn't matter, where they are, if it's FloodGate or if it's somebody in-house, they need to be an extension of you, okay? They're not They're not an HR person that does HR things or a vendor. They're not a resume pusher. They need to be an extension of you because they are broadcasting your brand, your company, your mission, your vision, your values out to the masses. They're posting things on social media. Okay. And we've seen, unfortunately, that kind of the dark side of this with companies that have come to us and said, FloodGate, our last partner just, did not represent us well. And our brand is actually suffering because people saw this kind of behavior and it's reflected poorly on us. So if nothing else, I hope you take this away, that your brand is being presented in either good light or bad light, and you are ultimately responsible for that. So you need to make sure that your recruiting partner is an extension of you, sharing the same message, the same narrative that you would share if you were sitting down with a candidate. Second, that's a great segue. Give them every single tool and selling point that you have so that they can win. I mean, there's been countless times where a hiring manager will come to me and say, just casually, oh, well, we were number one in the country, the last 2 years in a row. Really? That would have been great to know. So share these wins, share these successes, because it's an incredibly competitive market and we need everything we can to win that top 10% over. Lastly, discuss mutual expectations. You have a right to know when you should expect resumes. They should commit to a timeline for you, and vice versa. The recruiting partner, deserves to know what your process is. Do you ask the candidates to sell a Bic pen at an interview? That would be helpful to know. So any expectations that would be kind of out of the ordinary, discuss those up front. All right, so you've got those three things: your hiring profile, your defined timeline, and a partner that is equipped and incentivized to win for you. You are set up for an awesome foundation. So you're ready to win. I'm going to turn it back over to Joe, who will share with you guys a little bit about attracting talent. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, thanks, Heidi. I appreciate it. I bet you LSU and Georgia fans all over are cringing over the last couple slides, but hey, I think you bring some really good points there. But now that you have the team, you have the plan, that timeline, you're set, you're ready to go. Now it's attracting top talent. And I can tell you right now, that's one of the hardest things to do. But one of the first things you need to do to attract top talent is something you wouldn't have thought of: candidate branding, in that your values actually matter. So it was a recent survey that found millennials would accept 20% less in income if the company they went to work for shared their values. So make sure you lead with your values. Make sure you have branding out there that people are attracted to you, see the exciting workplace you are. Spend the time, spend the money to do it. Second, make it easy to engage. If you're sending them to a website with a lengthy 50-question survey to apply, you're not going to get the best candidates. They're busy. They're happy with what they do. You've got to make it absolutely easy to engage in the process. We do text messages that look like chatbots with video embedded in there to attract them. Make it easy. Make it so simple. In fact, I had one candidate said, hey, the only reason I'm talking to you is because I had time while I was waiting in the line at Disney World, and guess what? He was the guy that got the job. So you got to make it easy to engage. The third thing, you have to stand up from the crowd. Now, what do I mean by that? Usually the noise has been about here. And, you could, buy an ad and get maybe here and get some people to notice you. But that's not the way it is now. Right now, the noise is here. And you've got to be able to do things that stand above the crowd, do things that disrupt the market. One of the things we do is referrals are a great way to do it. And we have an easy, frictionless referral program where, we're offering up to $2,500 if someone gets hired, and a $100 Amazon gift card for a referral name. We're standing out from the crowd and getting someone's attention. Right. Then finally, you've got to be willing to do the work. When I was a hiring manager, I remember reaching out to 10 people, a couple of my friends, and asking if they knew anybody. And I'm like, I'm pretty good at this recruiting stuff. Not even close. right? You have to reach out to sometimes 200 to target, engage with 60, really get deep with 20 to be able to have that top 5 if you're lucky to be able to get to it. That's the numbers. So if you're not able and have the time to do it, make sure your partner does, or you have the partner that's willing to do that for you, because that's the way you really need to attract top talent. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Morgan, who's going to talk about a little bit of facts and some of the myths we have about interviewing. Morgan?
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Heidi. Yeah, so before we kind of get into any kind of interviewing tips and tricks, I think important to kind of cover some myths around interviewing. So I'm sure you guys might have thought some of this. I work and listen better when I multitask. Rescheduling 5 interviews last minute is no problem. My recruiter and candidates won't mind at all. Oh, I can handle 6 interviews in a day. I'll remember everything. Oh, the candidate doesn't need to sell me. It doesn't need to sell me or sell me on the company. You want to make sure you sell them. So with that being said, yeah, let's get into some some general interviewing tips. So before we get into that, you want to prep, right? So I think we've been on a football kick here, so I'm going to bring up Tom Brady. If you want to perform at the highest level, then you need to prepare at the highest level, right? So number 1, do your homework. Make sure you review their resume in advance. Cut through the clutter, right? What should you focus on? Number 1, you want to look at their overall career progression. Does it make sense to you? Are there gaps? Are they in a stepping stone position right now? And why are they looking to make a change? Now more than ever, it's important to test on motive with so many different opportunities in the market. Number 2, you want to look at performance, right? So what do their numbers say? Have they had documented sales success? Have they seen territory growth? All of these things are very important when you're looking at overall performance. 3, you want to make sure that, if you have interview questions, you want to make sure you have a sequence. You have your interview questions ready to go, as well as your post-evaluation tool for your candidates afterwards, so it stays consistent for every interview. Lastly, if you have a dedicated recruiting partner, you want to have those screening notes in front of you so you can kind of see the highlights of your screening call for your candidate. Next, put yourself in the job seeker shoes. Don't keep rescheduling or showing up late. I guarantee you top talent will withdraw from an interview process simply from managers rescheduling or showing up late. So you want to put yourself in their shoes. Impress them too, right? Sell them on your company. Why is it an exciting time to be a part of your organization, and why now? Next steps. Heidi mentioned that really preset 8-week interview process, right? So you want to have that time blocked, and you want to know exactly what to do after a really great interview. Now you might ask me, well, why do I need to prep? Why is it important for me as a hiring manager to prep for my interviews? I'll tell you why. Acquiring the right talent is the most important key to growth. Hiring was and still is the most important thing we do. Imagine this, right? You're in a relationship, it's fresh, it's fun, it's going well, and then all of a sudden they start treating you like poo. Well, odds are it won't change if you get married, right? So same principle kind of applies for hiring and joining a company. If you're getting a bad feeling during the interview process, it might not change. So it's important as a hiring manager to be skilled in hiring, to make sure you're attracting the right talent or top talent for your organization by being prepared. So with that, let's get into some general interviewing tips. Schedule in advance. So typically that's anywhere from 2 days to up to a week in advance. This gives your recruiters time to organize and schedule your candidates, as well as plenty of times for your candidates to prep in advance. Don't overschedule. We usually say no more than 5 interviews, and 3 in a day is typically ideal. And give yourself time in between interviews. That's typically 15 to 20 minutes. It's a good rule of thumb. This allows you to evaluate your candidate immediately following the interview, right? Using that post-evaluation tool I just mentioned, as well as getting prepared for the next interview if you have a couple in a day. Now, let's talk about the interview that you can do without your pants. You guys all know what I'm talking about. The virtual interview, right? So we are still in a virtual interview world coming out of the pandemic and still maintaining safety. So a couple key things that we've noticed as a recruiting firm organization that's important for virtuals. Number one, be clear on what type of video platform that you're using and make sure that it's easy to use. So you want to send the video invite link as soon as possible, not 3 minutes before, because trust me, we've had managers that have done that. Really doesn't give your candidate enough time to prep and do a little tech check, so make sure you're sending it right away. Treat it the same as a face-to-face interview, right? So, free from your dogs barking in the background if the mailman comes, if your dogs are like mine, free from all the noise renovations, just pick a good quiet spot. And then you'll probably want to wear pants, probably. And then lastly, don't overschedule, right? We all, again, are living in a virtual world. So pick a day that you're a little bit lighter in team meetings if you can. I had a really phenomenal manager, or I do, and he had about 3 virtual interviews, but it was on a day where he was back to back all day. And he was like, Morgan, I can't even think about feedback or the candidates, how good they are, because I've had so much screen fatigue. So just pick a day where it's a little bit lighter. And next, the good old face-to-face is making a comeback, right? So you have the left and the right of the screen. On the left, you have a busy coffee shop and you have these guys sitting next to you. Might be a bit distracting. So try again, pick a good location. If it's at a coffee shop or a hotel, see if you can get a quiet conference room. So you look a little bit more like the right side of the screen, right? Quiet environment, and you can have a good, meaningful conversation. Again, I've seen it several times where a distracting face-to-face environment really doesn't set the tone for a good interview, and unfortunately, it didn't lead to good outcomes, no matter how great the candidate was. All right, so now it's game time, right? The actual interview. There are 3 core things in any given interview that you're trying to find out for your candidates, right? Can they do the job? Will they do the job? And are they a culture fit? Now more than ever, too, culture candidates and you are looking for a really good culture fit with so many different opportunities out there. So some good examples of questions to identify some of these 3 core concepts. Can do. In your last position, how much time did you spend cultivating customer relationships versus hunting for new clients, and why? Will they do the job? A good example might be, how do you keep a smile on your face during a hard day? Tougher changing market. And fit, what's worse, not making quota every single month or not having happy customers? Now, these questions are just some basic examples, but it's very vital and essential to have pre-planned open-ended question to kind of vet some of those core competencies that you need, whether it be performance, fit, attitude, etc. Alrighty, so you got through the interview, and then now what? There's some really important post-interview best practices so we can ensure that the interview process moves as smoothly as possible. Number 1, you want to make sure that you're evaluating ASAP. So immediately, we talked about having that 15 to 20 minute window. You want to make sure that you're evaluating immediately after, so you remember your conversation, the things you liked, or maybe things you want to dig deeper on, so you can move to the next. Immediate feedback. So you want immediate feedback, if you have 3 in a day, after that, if you have 1 in a day, after that, right? You want to let your recruiter know, or internal HR, who's ever found the candidate for you, and your candidate's feedback. So this ensures that if the candidate didn't have everything you wanted, your recruiter or internal HR can continue to vet accordingly, or you love someone and you keep the process moving. Next steps, we've talked about this a couple times, but make sure you know what that is. You have that blocked off so we can keep things moving. And I'll probably say it a million times, you want to keep the process moving using the same process, to keep it moving fast. All right, now you have your interview, right? Something that we've seen a little bit of a buzz about, other than just interview questions, is there anything else out there that you can use to help maybe confirm a belief or address a concern? There's a lot of buzz around assessments. So maybe some of the ones you've heard are sales genomics or the Brooks Index, Talent Index. Those are good examples. So we thought it was important when we brought this up. A good rule of thumb is to keep an open mind. So again, I had mentioned certainly it can confirm a belief or it can address a concern. So good news if it does confirm a belief. If there's a concern, you can either coach and develop if they joined the team, or you can dig a little bit deeper in the interview process on it. But we've actually seen a ton of studies that show it's not a true indicator of overall sales success. So just keep an open mind when you're using it in your interview process. And then you get through your interview process. You love them. The assessment goes well. Everything's good, right? If you love someone in today's market, what do? It's funny, when we did some hiring interviews, training a while back, a couple years back, this slide looked a lot different. It actually said, love someone in today's market, wait it out. But we are not in that market. Can anyone tell me what a candidate-driven market is? And you can post in the comments if you want. Yep, exactly, right? A candidate-driven market, candidates actually have the upper hand, not employers. So top talent is very scarce right now, and jobs are abundant. So if you love someone in today's market, marry them, or at least keep them moving. And if you really, really like them, let's get that verbal offer out. And if you're like this guy and you need 150 candidates extra to see, you may want to think differently. But we certainly want to get them on board if you like them. So make sure your approvals get complete, your validations complete, you get that official offer out and background check good to go. And that's important. Why? Just like with your customers, you want to get that contract out and signed. You want to do the same for your rock stars that you love, to get them on the boat, if you will. And if things go wrong or delayed, communicate. The actual #1 reason in 2021 for candidates declining job offers is from the process taking too long. So communicate, but certainly keep it moving. And with that, I'll have Joe pop back in to talk about the 3 C's of onboarding.
Awesome. Morgan, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And before I jump in, Keith had a question here. Doing the work, what kind of numbers did I say? So it kind of depends on the role and what you're looking for and how narrow it is. If it's just a generic sales role, sometimes in tough markets, we're at 150 candidates to start, maybe 200. We're going to interact with 50, 60 and screening 20 to 30 candidates, narrowing it down to that top 5. So those are the kind of numbers. Sometimes that's, knock all that down by half if it's a more specific targeted market. So Keith, hopefully that answers your question. I appreciate you commenting on that. So back to the 3 C's. You did all this work. You got everyone excited. You did the interviewing. You found your rock star, your dream person. Now you bring them on board. And this is where some companies drop the ball. But here's what the great companies do. The great companies use these 3 C's to make sure they're excited and they stick and they stay. The first thing you need to do is show them that you care. Don't show up on that first day and go, oh, shoot, I got to order that computer. And anyway, just stay over there, for a day. We'll get everything going. No, have everything ready, excited, act like the #1 draft pick. Get them the jersey, get them the computer. Make it, everyone's excited to have them on. That's how they know they care. It's really simple. And like Stephen Covey said, they don't care what you know until they know that you care. So make sure you start there. The second thing is make sure they know your core values. Now, if you've done this right, you've already done that through your interview process, and your core values are transparent because you're attracting the right people from your core values. In fact, in our interview process, we have people write, an email what the core values mean to them to make sure they understand them and know what they are. But the good news about core values, when they start, it gives them agency. And the importance of agency is they have the ability to make a choice, because they know that if they're making a choice that aligns with the company's core values, they're not doing anything wrong. And people that are empowered are excited, and those people stay. Finally, you got to be able to create connections, and create connections beyond yourself, beyond just a mentor. Make sure they have connections throughout the organization, and that doesn't happen organically. You've got to force it. Have them spend time with operations and customer service and engineering, so that way they feel the community. They understand what other people are going through to make things happen, to support what their role is every day. And when things go wrong, they know who to reach out to. That's the way they feel connected. So if you do that right, and you're doing this hiring right, now we've set the plan. You've got a team that supports you. You have the ability, hopefully some good ideas of how to attract, break through that noise, and get those right people. And then once they're there, how do you interview them? Make sure they're right for you, and make sure the company is right for them. And then secure them, bring them on board quickly, and finally onboard them so they're there to stick and stay for the long term. If you put those together, you are going to be on target with the right trajectory to have success in 2022. I hope you found this very helpful. I'm going to bring Heidi back in so she can help answer any questions, and Morgan here as well. Guys, if you have any questions, you want to go ahead and post it, in the comment section. We'll be able to see them, answer those questions right now. Got a question here from, looks like out of Albuquerque. For how long does it take to fill a role? So, I mean, how do you want to take that one? What should someone expect really from opening to, closing a role? How long do you think it should take?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it during my portion. 8 weeks is a pretty conservative number. It can take up to multiple months, but I know our fill rate is about 48 days, I think. So, we're a little bit above average with about a 6-week fill rate, but I think 8 weeks is a realistic number across the board.
Okay, that's good for planning. If you're ahead of that, you're already ahead of the game, right? So, but people that said, hey, I need to have a team for 2022 built out, they needed to start 2 months ago, right? So if that's you, get going, get your roller skates on. Looks like got a second question is, what's one of the biggest mistakes you've seen hiring managers make? I mean, Morgan, do you have something there?
Yeah, I mean, I know I touched on a lot of interview tips and tricks. I think a big one is, having maybe too many interviews in a day. I think rescheduling is something I see a big mistake, or being late sometimes. I've had higher level positions where the candidate will call me, hey, this is the third time they were 5 minutes late. I certainly respect theirs. I feel like they didn't respect mine, and it was kind of a big mistake, and the candidate withdrew. So I think valuing their time as much as yours, especially in such a competitive market. So
yeah, Morgan, I think that, if I can just speak to that briefly, I think that that's a symptom of an underlying root condition, which is just employers thinking that it's a one-way street, and that the candidate's lucky if they get an interview or get a job offer. And so I think just educating employers that it's not that way anymore. With review sites like Glassdoor, with the transparency that LinkedIn's brought to bear, job seekers are just as savvy in vetting prospective employers as vice versa.
Definitely, Heidi, 100%.
Yeah, good. I would say, along with that, it's a concept of interviewing and recruiting, right?
Yeah.
Interviewing is, hey, what are you going to do for me? Recruiting is a two-way street.
Yeah.
Right, making sure they're equally as excited about the position, and then you're able to understand if they're the right fit for you in parallel, and that can be done with savvy hiring managers, like you said, Heidi.
Absolutely.
So, guys, we've posted some things on the feed. One is our FloodGate University. We've got 20 videos in there, 10 downloadables, tons of information that can help you or your team sharpen the axe in hiring. Now, I can tell you, as a hiring manager previously that had teams of hiring managers, I sucked at training them. So use this, it makes them a lot better. The second thing we posted in there is just a direct link to some great interview questions, right? I know having a list of interview questions really helps you set that plan. And so hopefully that's just one example of things of value we can offer. And obviously, if you need a team and we can help you, whether that is from compensation to finding the right talent, please reach out. We're here to help. Thank you. Appreciate you spending the time with us.
Thanks, guys.